Chris, Anthony, welcome, guys. How are you doing?
Really good, really good. How are you?
All good here as well. Well, to give a little intro to everyone, to try and set up the table here, Anthony here is the president of Africa Grain and Seed, a great initiative to feed people and share the wealth that's coming from many industries and sort of drive it into the African landscape. And Chris as well, barrister by profession, CEO of KamPay, he's doing great things as well to drive adoption of crypto in Africa. So having said that, guys, would you like to take turns explaining a little bit more what it is that you do, starting first, if you want, with Anthony, and then we can go to Chris?
Sure. Oh, no, perfect. Excellent. Oh, sorry. Try and make sure nothing comes in, interrupts the meeting. Well, Africa Grain and Seeds is an initiative to basically put back or help the rural communities start to grow and become more productive with the land that they're already sitting on. And this is how this program started. In fact, we just wanted to put something together that would give them something to grow, give them something so we can buy it back, give them something to do, especially now with COVID. We wanted to make sure that we were not ignoring or not bypassing the people who needed the help the most. So that's how Africa Grain and Seed started.
All right. And if you want to go now, Chris?
Yeah, so Anthony and I have known each other for quite some time. We traveled around Africa, mainly doing fertilizer trading, seed trading. We came up to Uganda, Zimbabwe, Zambia, South Africa. You know, these are countries that we've worked in for a long time, and particularly Anthony has led a very successful business in those areas. But above and beyond that, he's given a lot back to the community through African Grain and Seed, where they provided seed, they provided fertilizer, they provided the inputs that farmers in Africa have needed to get them off the ground and get going through cash crops and feed their families during difficult times. Zimbabwe right now is going through an amazing phase where, for the first time since pre-Mugabe days, it's able now to feed itself, and it's creating a green revolution. And that green revolution is being led by African Grain and Seed, and that's why KamPay, the token that recently launched on PancakeSwap, following its very, very successful IDO, is supporting him. Because we see this as a great microfinance opportunity for DeFi followers, for yield farmers who exist within the crypto community and are growing every day, to take some of that $1.6 trillion of market value in the crypto community and earn better yield by coming through the process that KamPay will provide, where we provide the microfinance that helps us work with African Grain and Seed to help the farmers develop their cultivation, to develop their harvest. So the thing is that, you know, these kind of situations only happen once in a lifetime, where the people who most need something meet the people who most are able to help them. And also by doing that, they also help themselves. And what I mean by that is that we have a load of yield farmers in DeFi who are looking for yield. The African market is used to borrowing money at very high yield. So if you can connect the two things, the microfinance needed on the ground with the people looking for a return on their crypto, then you've got a beautiful channel coming between the two things. And it's a singular opportunity for cryptocurrency, where the centralized element that sits in the middle, the people who decide what the interest rates are, the people who decide the fungibility of tokens, are no longer relevant. But why aren't they relevant? It's because peer-to-peer, which is the whole point of our decentralized dream, our DeFi dream, is possible with this kind of a relationship. So we're super excited. We put together the KamPay wallet. We've worked on it for a very long time with some really great people. We incentivize the use of it by bringing on board lottery opportunities, so everyone's got a chance to win, right? But lotteries are also well known for being able to provide social support, for community support as well. So we're doing that, and we have 7 national lotteries around Africa, and we're working with Africa Grain and Seed right now to make that all a reality on the ground in Zimbabwe. So it's a unique offering. We call it the offering of mass distribution, mass customer acquisition, and also mass good, because that's what we intend to do. We want to do a lot of good for a lot of people.
Man, and touching quickly on one little tangent of what you just said, you conducted an IDO for people not familiar with KamPay or with Kamari. What was the process of the IDO? Where did you conduct it, etc.?
So we followed the typical process, if you know how these things work, of a private sale. We used a launchpad that was aimed at Binance Coin users and supporters. It went very well. We raised sufficient funds for us to support a microfinance pilot to build out the rest of our wallet, which is nearly completed. And we've already announced that Kamari, with KamPay, will be working with Zimpay, which is the #1 remittance company of coins and cash from South Africa to Zimbabwe. So there's an amazing channel when you can think you've got crypto and fiat at this kind of level and you can invest in that company. So that's worth thinking about. But on top of that, we then took it on to PancakeSwap, which is a wonderful decentralized exchange, which people are now becoming more and more aware of. There's huge liquidity. And it's performing well. The most important thing, though, is with all investments, is that we do what we say we're going to do. We build out the wallet, we help people on the ground, we create yield for our supporters. And as long as we do that, I think it's going to be exciting.
And with that intro, and when we're talking about, giving back the success of companies in Africa, when we're talking about creating initiatives to empower farmers, to empower people on the ground in Africa to start, transacting and mainly sending remittances, right? Which is a huge use case when it comes to developing nations, right?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Carlos. Remittances are the lifeblood of many countries because there's a very little sources of external foreign direct investment otherwise. So the informal sector supports the many people on the ground through their family and certainly through difficult times as well.
I would like to ask, you, Anthony, where is the African Grain and Seed Initiative mostly based on these days?
Okay, no, if you had gone to our website, you'd notice that we have done extensive, how can I put it, study of our rural communities, because we realized something about Africa, that since being in Africa, like most of the farming in Africa is a communal issue, and most of the people who are actually left out of not having to be able to reach their full potential are the rural communities in Africa, where most of the population sits. So how we started is that we started with the schools. We have gone into schools, started putting in all of our, giving them seeds, because we understand how Africa works. It's going to work this way. We're not going to put seeds into their grounds and we're going to get our revenue back immediately. So we were building the base at first, right? And with the knowledge that we have now, with the farmers, with the communities that we've seen, that we've gotten, they've come back to us and say, listen, okay, we've grown the tomatoes, we've grown the vegetables, we've eaten what we can. Can we sell something back to you? Is where we intend to make sure that we go with KamPay, right? And make sure that those farmers, when we buy, let's say, because we'll buy all the inputs. We're not going to give them money. We're gonna buy all the inputs and make sure that we've got the local agronomists, like Zimbabwe's got very highly educated farming communities, right? That if given the resources, if given the inputs, right, we can see a very large, bigger yield than what we're seeing now in all these communities. If everyone's producing 2 hectares of, let's say, groundnuts, right, 2 hectares of it's something as simple as chilies, 2 hectares of ginger, 2 hectares of a special type of red onion, right? We can buy it back because we understand that there's most of the inputs they take in, they need to still think of feeding themselves, feeding their kids, and putting them through school. So what Africa Grain and Seed does is we have managed to get in an agreement with all the schools in these communities. The outgrowing starts at the school. So the schools are where the germination plant starts. right? As the germination happens there, the outgrowing is done within the communities. So that it's the same schools that we're donating books to, the same schools that we're putting orchards in for trees, because we are trying to have a greener Africa before it's too late for global warming. No one's going to teach Africa unless we start teaching ourselves. So the best way to do it is make sure that they start having the relation between cutting the tree, right, and letting the tree give them fruits where we know we've got an off-taker, and most of our off-takers will pay the same communities or the same villages or the same people who we will term farmers now through the KamPay platform, right? That way we know that we are not handling or KamPay is financing the inputs. KamPay is going to work with them the full journey we've proposed to them, and they've signed on, which is a 10-year journey. We've got certain schools that were really unfortunate not to have a lot of assistance before, but through our South African government, Zimbabwean government, these governments they also want to do better for their people, but most of the time it's a matter of they don't have enough resources. So that's how I can honestly say, as an African, I've traveled a lot with Chris. So I can say with most of the things we've done successfully, supplying fertilizer, we're looking for a change on ourselves. We want to do a greener initiative. We want to do a more organic structure, right? That we can not the first year, Carlos. We intend to be selling, let's say, green veggies to you in 2 years or so, right? But we have to start somewhere. So it's a 10-year journey, which KamPay has honestly said, look, we're going to start with you, and it will change crypto. My view of this, crypto will be a different investment platform, because you're investing in the same people who you want to use the crypto. Africa has to be introduced to this technology now. And that's how I see it.
Yes, definitely. I like it. Sorry, it's very hard not to interrupt people on Zoom. Go, Chris.
Yeah, I think what Anthony's saying there is spot on. There's a lot of people in crypto who come to Africa and they go and say they are going to bank the unbanked. But the unbanked ain't unbanked. There's a lot of people who say that they're going to come to Africa and they're going to help. They get some good photos, they shake a few hands, and they fly back. There's very few who actually put money in the hands of the people who are supposed to have the money, i.e. the unbanked, provide them with banking services. You're talking about a huge population here, 350 million people, sub-Sahara, who do not have basic banking services. So you're not trying to reinvent the wheel in Africa. There is no wheel. So what will happen is that there's a massive leapfrogging of technology. So we're never going to sit there and go and say, oh my God, where's the ATM gone? The ATM was never there. What's going to happen instead is that everyone has one of the world's best smartphone penetrations anywhere in the world is in Africa. Africa learned how to do mobile money before America did. So this is the ability that Africa has to take up technology and also to leapfrog existing technologies. It also has this amazingly young demographic. You've got countries like Uganda, which are the youngest populations in the world. Zimbabwe's demographic, compare that to Japan if you don't know the difference. So where is the great innovations going to come from? Who is going to be taking on board learning like a second language crypto other than Africans? No one. So we will see patterns that you've seen yourselves. And there's a reason why El Salvador has recently taken up BTC as being the flagship. It's because these places with young populations are the ones that already understand that the old system doesn't work. It didn't work for them.
Man, you said the S word, and we're going there. We're going to talk about El Salvador because it's like the big news of the week. It happened literally just yesterday. There's a lot to touch here, and yeah, guys, we have a lot to cover. We have the remittances through crypto thing. We have to talk about how we can use crypto to enable charity acts and to enable philanthropic endeavors. Before we get into that, we're just going to go to a quick message from our sponsors. Take these 30 seconds to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, to drink some water, and we'll be right back. The Blockchain People podcast is brought to you by CoinPayments, the world's first and leading crypto payment processor. CoinPayments serves over 70,000 merchants in over 200 nations with industry-low fees since 2013. The CoinPayments wallet lets users hold over 2,000 different cryptocurrencies, which is why they're used by giants such as NordVPN and Binance. Whether you're a merchant or an individual looking to get paid in crypto, CoinPayments could be just what you need. Okay, well, coming back from that message, guys. So, yeah, remittances, El Salvador, lots and lots to touch on. But one of the main things that struck me when I was reading your contributions on Cointelegraph, Chris, is, and everything that has been said about the relationship between AGS and KamPay, is that there are pretty new, pretty innovative ways to fund these things, to fund farmers, to fund people that are hard to fund through government grants and hard to fund as well through the private initiatives, because we don't necessarily have the screening processes that are required, or people do not have the underlying infrastructure in place just to be able to access these opportunities. We had Nolwasi Lope here. She was a regulator in Africa, and she then went on to become one of the main proponents of financial inclusivity in the continent. And she talked a lot about how she would walk from community to community, just teaching kids about banking and about the importance of accessing financial systems. So can you talk a bit, if you want, first you, Chris, then you, Anthony, about how crypto solves these problems, apart from mobile penetration, when it comes to helping people get funding for things such as farming?
Look, you're putting it right in the right place there. There are ineffective land registry. They cannot show land ownership. There's people without credit history, way in which we usually decide how or why or when we're going to receive money. So you've got innovations now coming on board, like Cardano's Atala Prism. So Atala Prism was launched in Ethiopia by the Cardano group. IOG is now called, used to be IOHK. And Charles Hoskinson, the boss of that, has made Africa, for a very good reason, the place where he marks his spot. You will notice that the moment that he announced that he's coming into Ethiopia, he moved into the top 5 of cryptocurrencies in the world by terms of market cap and huge liquidity. So there's a reason for that, because if you underpin your cryptocurrency with mass distribution, you're less reliant upon speculation in the market. It really has a utility case. Why is it so important? Why does it have a utility case? Because it solves a problem, the one you've just said, which is KYC, know your customer, AML, anti-money laundering rules, and also allows people then to set up a relationship by which people can trust them to lend. You see, blockchain should be decentralized. Why? Because when it's decentralized, it operates without prejudice and it acts on the basis of the facts as it's actually seen. There's a reason why Africa pays bigger interest rates than countries that are even at war. You can have a country in Africa that's been at peace for 20, 30 years like Malawi, 40 years like Malawi, and they'll have a higher interest rate than a country at war in Europe, like Ukraine. So you have to look at the realities, and blockchain has no color prejudice, and blockchain is blind in terms of justice. So it just allows things to happen, and that's what's going to be so exciting, because if people are just given a fair chance, actually need aid. If you're given a fair crack of the whip and you just treated fairly, then actually straight business works. In Africa, they pay. In African countries, you say Africa just like it's one place. But, if you take the majority of countries in Africa, they're in double digits in terms of their interest rates. When you go and use cryptocurrency and it's blind, it doesn't have to be that way. And it doesn't mean that you use the most exploitative forms of microfinance to create benefit. Because you know what? Your customers are also your stakeholders. They own your crypto. So they're your stakeholders, just like shareholders in a company that's based in the UK are all English, even if they have assets in Africa. So it's about being inclusive. Financial inclusion doesn't just mean giving education about finance. What financial inclusion means is you're actually part of the game. And that's what we're looking at here. And that's why people are going to have huge take-up on it. And that's why they're going to give that necessary information they need to give to be able to get the services they want. And, the systems are in place and they're being developed. The technology is catching up with the desire. But within the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to be shocked at what DeFi is going to produce.
And yeah, Anthony, can you speak a little bit about what crypto means for these sort of initiatives and to get funding driven?
It's a complete game changer. Let me be frank. From a person who's been doing business internationally and in Africa and I'll be the first to say, most probably not focusing so much on the vulnerable communities, because there's not a lot of guarantee. If I supply something, will I get my money back? Right now with crypto, it's when we started coming on board, right? Crypto has the ability to bridge a gap, right? In the sense that if someone is going to grow something and we know that they're going to give us something back, right? We are able to look at how best do we fund or put a funding structure, right, around their warehousing, the finances, right, without actually taking the money out and putting it in their hands. But we can put in inputs, right? We can put in the fertilizer. We can put in whether it's the education around it, right? And because Africa, as much as crypto is a new thing in Africa, or it's an emerging sector, right? Africa has been working with mobile money, like Chris said. Right now, that literally bridges. That shows you just how adoptable this process is for Africa. Right, Africa is ready for it. It's just a matter of the terminology. Africans, when they hear something say crypto, they think it's corrupt. Right, so you have to make sure. Like now, when they say it's how I like to say how you term something, right, sounds different to the person who listens to it the first time. Right now, when you say wallet to an African, wallet is a good thing. When you say coin, it usually means the thing you get given after you spent real money. So you can't go to them and say Bitcoin. Not everyone in the rural community is going to jump onto the rural. But you see, with KamPay, the minute you say pay, everyone's listening up. Okay, fine. And KamPay is saying, we're coming to say, with Africa Grain and Seed, and in the communities we work with, we've been in these communities. It's not our first time going in. It's not the first time we're talking to the schools. Like we've been giving during the COVID crisis in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, to as many communities as we could get to, right? And as much as we could give. But the added advantage of having to give with a partner. Now you say, Africa Grain and Seed is powered by KamPay to give you more, right? And KamPay is expecting you to do the exact same thing you're doing. But in this case now, your father or your parents now can grow this amount for us and put it back on. We are now introducing cryptocurrency, blockchain in their eyes. And this is where I'm seeing from what we're doing with just the agricultural colleges or the rural schools, the ones that really need the assistance, right? They're coming on and saying, let's understand, how does this thing work? Now you see, because you're not going to educate everyone in Africa, right, on this crypto thing, because everyone who's in town or everyone who's educated about it, right, is not in the village. They're not your 50% of Africa. Let's be frank, right? Your 50% of Africa are sitting still in the vulnerable parts where everyone wants to go give something, right? Now it's made it easy for KamPay to say, look, okay, fine, we're supporting the giving. Right? Because if we invest with you in the giving, we know in the next 2 years, all the communities we're in will only talk about that crypto they understand, who's been there with them, which is where most cryptos have not been in Africa, in the sense that we understand it's a computer thing. Now, as many people who have computers or have phones, the loading, the paying, what it's paying you for seems a bit magical to them, right? Because it's a blockchain. It's somewhere in a computer. But when you start telling them, when you put this back in, what you grow there, well, we will give you the payment for that and put it on that wallet, right? Where you can put it, you can invest it in any currency you want, right? You're now teaching investment. You're now starting to teach the principles that have made the world adopt crypto so fast, right? And left Africa a bit in the back, right? Because we're still working with our own we're still dealing with exchange rates. We're still dealing with how do I get my money to my grandfather in Zimbabwe? I'm sitting in South Africa, and when it gets there to him, well, how much will it be worth, right? And it's not that there's nothing that they have to give, but there's so much to produce, even mining. These are all sectors that Africa is sitting with, right? That could back most of the cryptocurrencies you're looking at. And in this case, I would say this. The first one to say is KamPay will most be the first one to be adopted by most communities because they're there. The rule of giving anything is how do you get there first, right? So a child who eats at one home, right, will always know that home fed me, right? And that's the loyalty of Africa. It's also its curse, right? We've supported some things that were not beneficial for us. Companies, like Chris says, big companies come in, they will do big things, but they will leave with all the big things they took. No one is reinvesting on the ground. So we want to put processing plants in those same communities that we're paying using that cryptocurrency. Look, Zimbabwe adopted a pay system on a phone now so much, right? That even when Zimbabwe was in a crisis, that pay system used to work to supply everyone with a way to get your money. Now, if this is a cell phone, now imagine if you start doing that across the whole of Southern Africa, and this is, like Chris said, these are 300 million, right, teens with not much to do. But if we say we're going to give you the seed you put in the ground, when it comes back, right, we will pay for you, but we're going to pay you in this structured way so that we also know if it's working or if it's not working. Where it's not working, we stop. We put all our efforts to where it works the most. And crypto becomes an adopted, how can I put it, the stepmother. No one hates their mother, except the mothers can hate you. There's a good chance of being the stepmother to a lot of Africans, believe you me.
But there are three very clever things that I see that you guys are doing together. And the first of all is having this store where you list several like the goods that people can access through the funding through KamPay. So you're not giving them directly something, but you're giving them a chance to decide what's better for them, right? And you're giving them the funds to acquire it. And that is, of course, in a cryptographically secure way, in a way that's directly tied to their identities, which is like the sort of things crypto enables. And then there is the having a messaging app within the wallet. And I thought that was really good, man. Like there's always been talks about Facebook wants to include cryptocurrency within WhatsApp, but no one ever thought about including WhatsApp inside cryptocurrency. So
that's one. I think the exciting part of this. I think people have missed the fact that communication is a key to a peer-to-peer relationship, right? So I don't want to hear from my bank manager. I don't actually want from anyone who isn't integral to my well-being about my money. But if someone turns around to me and said, I did this and this worked, tried this and this worked, I had a benefit from this and it worked, then that is how communities build. And communities can be virtual. They can be one man in Rwanda talking to one woman in Malawi, one woman in Malawi speaking to an old man in Namibia or a young girl in Nigeria. All of that is my community now, because we now share the same seed, we share the same aspiration, and we want to create the same culture and cultivation. So what's key, I think, in that expression, and I'm glad you brought it up, is I see this as, I see this as like the triangle, the triumvirate of what is necessary. You need to have a payment gateway, you need to have e-commerce, and that e-commerce here is the microfinance scenarios, the other services that we're going to be provided, and you need to have a way of people talking to each other without you sitting in the middle and making a problem with it. Let them talk and work their own truth out, and then support them to discover their own truth. That's the wonder of this age where everyone's connected. Why stand in the middle of that connection? Let them deal with each other.
Anthony, I'm curious now. Because when you're funding people through crypto and when you're using these new systems, new financial systems, there must, of course, be some risks, right? How do you deal with that part of things? And of course, in such an uncharted territory.
Okay, great. You see, because that was what I used to do a lot with Chris, risk assessment in African businesses. So, okay,
everything is risk assessment if you do your life right, guys.
Yeah, exactly. so we did a lot of risk assessment on just every transaction we would get into any business. Now, how we are managing risk, especially on this platform, or especially in this, is because we're dealing with communities, different farmers in different areas growing different products or different produce. This way, our risk is minimized in the sense that unless we're dealing with 17 farmers, right, big commercial farmers, if there was a drought, there's nothing that we can do. If there's a pest infection, right, it will take some time, right? But if we're dealing with these communities which are more vulnerable, in our case, what we've done is we've brought in churches. And if you understand Africa or any community, right, once you bring in their churches, their schools, right, and this is in different regions and different areas, right, communities get the sense of ownership of this project, right? That our risk is minimized in the sense that they're not, if they steal the seedlings, right, they can't eat them. The seedlings have to be planted somewhere, right? The seedlings came from their own kids' schools, right? So as much as we can't ever say there's no risk, right? Or our risk is as we've tried to mitigate as much risk as possible, right? I can tell you this is about the best way to say your community is behind you. When you involve the school, when you involve the mom, when you involve the churches, right? What the community does completely, right, is all part of our program. There's no part whereby we don't have any of this produce going anywhere. The youth in that community are the same people we hire or we pay when they go collect the vegetables or they collect whatever it is they're growing, right? We are paying them using the KamPay structure, right, for what they've done now. They now have the option whether they want to turn it to fiat or they want to buy something on the platform, right? But when we start off, we don't give out hard cash. We give out all the inputs, and we make the schools a primary. It's like a project to teach them about. So all our trees are mainly. They're vegetable. They're orchards. So they've got fruits. They're not just trees sitting there. They're going to give them something to eat, so they don't have to cut it down. So we will put in the trees at our cost, right? We will put in the greenhouses. That's the infrastructure we put in, so they see we're not going to come in and leave. And these infrastructure developments are done at the school level, where we start trying to mold the minds, to start realizing, look, even after I finished my school and we can upscale the skills, right? You can now in 5 years' time, we see ourselves putting processing plants, right? And sometimes, look, Africa's got one thing that a lot of people would love to see: sun. We are always sunny here, so we can sun dry anything, right? So we're not saying we're going to need to, and we want to introduce concepts of solar, right? Solar power into these communities, but you can't introduce it when people are hungry. Half the time, when people are talking about the things that really are struggling with everyone right now, I can tell you honestly, yes, medically, Africa needs to catch up, right? Mental health needs to catch up as well, right? But that will only work if people are eating. If people have something that they're producing and people have something that they know they're going to return, their kids will. There's something that they're doing there. And we give in South Africa, when I first moved here, it was the lotto. Everyone plays the lotto no matter what. Your cab driver plays it. The guys in the university are playing it because everyone's hoping to get a chance to win the lottery, right? But if we give the same opportunity to the person who's sitting in the village, say, you can win it with us. If you pay, and your lottery this time is not for money. Let me tell you the truth. The lottery is if you grow the best vegetables as your church, we will pay you, right? The school will benefit. Your church will benefit. So educational programs are translated in an African community by most probably, half the time not reading, but people talking. Like Chris is saying, the minute you let people start talking on an app, that you know what happened in our village, we've been doing this, we ate. I mean, you go on our website, you'll see a lot of thank you notes, kids from school, communities planting veggies. Look, we're not saying that we're going to save all of them, but what I can definitely tell you is that as we all begin to understand the concept seed, time, and harvest, right? They will realize that, look, I don't really have to run away from this. I can change my life here as long as someone is willing to come back and off-take something. So that's how we mitigate our risk.
Absolutely.
On our previous episode, we were talking a lot about whiskey and about... Yeah?
Have you ever heard of a cryptocurrency that does that?
Never.
Yeah, there you go.
No, that's what I wanted to say. On the previous episode, we were talking about importing baby food, and we were talking about whiskey, and we were talking about some things with the founders of Wabi. And I just thought, the thought that stuck in my mind was that it was so refreshing to be talking about things that go on people's plates and things that feed people, such as like what you do with seeds and trees and fruit and vegetables, everything, as a way that we can see the progression of this technology from an obscure concept, from ones and zeros on a screen, to things that actually get put in the physical world and that have a meaningful impact in the lives of many people, and that can land us in a variety of places. But I would like to touch on this El Salvador thing, because I think just as we see alliances forming in Latin America to adopt crypto and to give a space to a new financial ecosystem, I think very much, and that's something that Cardano is working on hard to do in Africa, as well as you mentioned. It seems like there is a big opportunity for an initiative to come out of Africa to do the same thing. Am I right, Chris?
You know what? People share the same experiences, and people have the same desires, and it doesn't really matter where they are in the world. You know, we want the same things, we need the same things, we desire the same things. And if our system doesn't provide us with the opportunity for that, then we are open to an opportunity that comes that allows us to do that, good or bad. I think what Chief said is fantastic, because it's an amazing concept that, you know, all these cryptographic guys, all these guys sitting in rooms and in basements and in garages and their mum's roof, and they've been developing all these fabulous technologies since 2013. Some of them are now billionaires. Some of them are now, you know, great creators, and people laud them at these great, you know, conferences like Miami, etc. But they started off with the belief that actually what they were going to do was not about money. It was actually about changing things and making things more equal, or making things better or more understandable, you know, and that's the mother of invention. So, you know, I think what you're saying is absolutely great. It's inevitable that the experiences of El Salvador will be mimicked by the experiences of people in Africa, because we want all the same things. And, you know, if we step back a little bit and we look at what Bitcoin has to offer as a store of value, it's definable, it's understandable, it's volatile because it's not yet a mass distribution product. So it's not underpinned by the numbers of people necessary to do that. And so it's still held in fewer numbers than it needs to be held, to be stable. But it gives the opportunity for people to create around it an ecosystem of tokens that actually can work. And I hope that that's where Bitcoin goes. I think our journey is different in that we're trying to solve just a particular problem here, or a series of problems, which are around financial inclusion. And we're directing it, and maybe that's not decentralized enough, but that's where our passion is. And so that's what we've got to follow. And that's the opportunity we're therefore going to try and solve. But it's phenomenal that people are recognizing that it's not okay to not have enough. And if it's not okay not to have enough, they want to solve that problem themselves. And so they're embracing solutions that are around them that make it more okay. They may not be perfect, but it makes it more okay. And I think KamPay is trying to create a partnership with its stakeholders who will be farmers and merchants in Africa. And we're trying to reach out to those people in ways which we can help them understand this opportunity, which they understand they need anyway. You know, we're not saying something that isn't obvious, which is that right now the financial system globally doesn't work for them.
The financial system globally doesn't work for them at all. I get... I'm trying to like be objective here and not let my personal feelings on some of these things come true that much because, well, we want to hear it from you more than from what I have to say at this moment. But I think that there are these ideas that blockchains are basically ideologies, and people in Bitcoin have a certain ideology, people with other tokens have certain ideologies. Cardano has its own, Ethereum has its own, and I've been very critical of Cardano in particular in the past, but that's something that really resonates with me. I really see a true want and a truly human initiative to fix these systems that are very unfair to Africa. So how are they, in particular about Cardano, how are their efforts in Africa perceived from your perspective and from you guys over there?
You know, I met Charles in South Africa, in actual fact, and that's the first time we met. And a very cool guy. And we spoke a lot. We were together for about seven days on that occasion, and we met since. And we hung out. We talked a lot about a lot of ideas. It's a couple of years ago, 3 years ago maybe. So I know that from his heart, absolutely, that he recognizes this. And from his heart, he came out and traveled the world and came to Africa to try and understand what it is that, you know, he was one of the original guys with Ethereum Classic, etc. So he was one of these guys who's very much from the old school. And if you look at the way that he's developed his currency, it's always been on the basis of, I will do what I say, I will under-promise, I will over-deliver, and my purpose is not to worry about the price going up and down, and as a result of that, the price has gone up, but and to get on with it. He's not an African, but he's employed some very strong Africans, you know, within his team. Certainly John O'Connor, you know, half Ethiopian, who's in the Ethiopian, worked incredibly hard to make this all happen. So I'm incredibly amazed, use that word, you know, and I'm humbly amazed that they've taken so much time to choose to be in our continent and to work with us to come up with these concepts. And I believe that this is a multi-currency universe, right? I reckon it's going to take the talents of so many people to actually cure the problems of society. It's not just one makes the change. It's everyone doing their little bit as to the best of their ability to do their little bit. And so, you know, I think they've done a great bit to open up governments like Ethiopia, which, let's face it, are not the easiest, to open them up to blockchain and to cryptocurrency. It should be a beacon for all the other governments to see if they can do it, we should be doing it, and not in the short term, because the financial system globally has not worked for them. And you don't have to be, you know, Museveni or anyone else to say that. In fact, we all know that.
Right. I've been wanting to have someone from Cardano and to talk Cardano on this podcast. So yeah, if you have some contact with someone that you would want to send over, please do after. We'll arrange after this.
I'll send them this video, Carlos, and they'll look at it and go, "Oh, that guy Carlos, he understands."
Okay, moving to Anthony, because I really like the back and forth we have here, where we talk about technology and then we talk about like the application of it in the literal field, like in the literal field where you would plant seeds. So what else might we be missing here when it comes to taking these high-level concepts and driving them all the way down to the villages, to the people that are outside the system, Anthony?
Well, I sometimes think we just missed the time, which is it's a different leg of time that you'll have to get your concept understood by someone who when they hear the word crypto corrupt, they sound really similar. And you saying this is the way to go, but it's a dialect issue. But and I also feel like it's because, like Chris was saying earlier on, a lot of things that have come out of the West and into Africa, right, don't really stay that long and don't really do that much good, right? We still remain trying to understand where did we get it wrong, and yet they're billionaires somewhere else. And look, I'm not saying I'm the best African son, right? That is, it took me some time to really say, I have to try something, right? And COVID has brought this to every African's attention. It doesn't really matter whether you're white, you're black. And I'll tell you this, the good thing about this is we've a lot of partners, most of them big guys, right? But to actually start saying, let's look at how best to financially readdress the inequalities that are on the ground, right? And I'll say to Chris, because he talks to all these guys personally, right? So he knows how it's been a drive for them to want to address this. And it's sometimes our governments have not been so easy to say, well, welcome it through, because remember, we are looking at how our structures have to work for our governments. Let's be honest, right? We want our governments to sort these things out for us. But the way I see it, is that we need to assist our governments to sort this for the people. Now, when you look at a KamPay structure, it's not African per se, but these guys have said, no, look, you know what? We will take the infrastructure risk, the financial risk to say, guys, if you are working with it, Anthony and your team, you're doing this on the ground, how do we make this become much more bigger, much more faster? So we're dealing with 50,000 communities, right? Where we all say in these communities, we want there to be a semblance of a farming structure. Now, there's no land rights in some of these communities. They've stayed there. This is where they live, this is where they were born, right? And if you really say, give me a title deed of your land, we're going to have a bigger problem because the banks are not going to say, how did it work that way? But if we work it through their school system and say, which school, all the kids in this school, where are your houses? Where do you stay, right? And how do you eat at night? We're starting to rebuild a form of trust that I think has to be put in place and start being in a place like in the communities where the numbers are. Because they're all looking to say, how does this thing work? How will it benefit us? And let me put it this way. Let's say AGS has paid the dues of putting a lot of seed on the ground to make sure that when we go back, now we say we've got KamPay with us, right? And we are now growing all of the ginger, all of the groundnuts you're growing, where it's a KamPay structure. They're giving us the seeds. It's not AGS alone that's giving you the seeds. We'll still give them the vegetable seeds. We know they need to eat something because COVID has removed most of the income that was playing around. These shutdowns on and off don't make it easy for everyone. And that's where if you start answering a question at such a basic level, right? They will try to understand. And the reason why we really insist on it being a school program is because do you know who's going to tell the parents how crypto really works or how blockchain works? It's the kids. The parents are never they can't read it. No matter how many times, they can't read enough about blockchain to understand it. Listen, it took me some time to understand this concept. And I'm flying in and out around. So trust me when I'm saying my money is sitting in a coin. That's being mined somewhere. To them, the way cryptos go up and fall, it's too risky. But when they realize that, look, the crypto we're playing with or the wallet that we save our money through, right? And that pays us when we give them whatever our produce is, right? Believe you me, that has more value to them for them to communicate this through their circles. And this way, it's important to have the educational programs running through, teaching them the same technology that the world's using today. Because if we try to say, let's wait another 10 years and then... I can't keep up with the new technologies that come up every single time, but they would learn a phone app quicker than they will learn their banking system because they need that phone helps them communicate. That phone delivers how they get paid, that phone can deliver communication with the people who need to pay them or they need to pay. So these principles it's an African form of communication. We all grew up around somewhere near a fire, even if I went to visit, right? But in that fireplace, I learned about some ancestors or great-grandparents. Same place you're still dealing with. We just have to remove the fire from Africa quickly before the whole world goes extremely hot. So we can't be, the only way to do it is have a phone and greener technology. If they're not burning as many trees as they're doing now, and we can just do a bit of that, and KamPay can just help on that, which I can tell you now, we have so much, we got more communities now wanting us to come on board. We have to actually start saying, how best do we, and this is where we work with our universities, the Africans on the ground who've been dealing with this. Most of our partners are also NGOs. We ourselves are a company. So we want to see these people profit, right? For us to make money. But the NGOs, we ask them, which communities have you had the best success? How did it work? They become our partners. In essence, that concept of it takes a village to raise a child is exactly what it will take to raise crypto in Africa. A village, all of us, as many hands as possible.
There is this thing that tends to happen because, like you said, that there is this difference. There's NGOs, then there's companies, and they're different, right? And then somehow DAOs and all these blockchain initiatives are sitting in a third slot, even if they're legally constituted as companies, because they have different values almost altogether, or manage to profit in a different way. Like Chris said, or I don't remember if it was you, but one of you to say this, and it really resonated with me. These are your stakeholders, and people have a stake in the system. And that's, if you want, you can sit down in your room, turn the lights off, think about this concept for 5 minutes, and think about how amazing it is that a country adopts Bitcoin or blockchain or whatever, and that every single person in this country is now a stakeholder of this new whole financial system. And think what can happen if it goes to other countries. It's just mind-blowing. You can take it to a lot of places.
Carlos, that's the point. And I think Anthony made it well, which is it's our children that will appreciate as this becomes the norm. We're in this kind of period of time in which, it's moving from one thing to another. Some of the old will remain, some of the new will come. That's always been the case. But the speed of change is dramatic. And with that technological change, sometimes people forget the societal change that comes with it. And the change in the way that we think about things comes with it. And so, we're all in it together. We all have to have a consensus that this thing has value. We all have to understand what that value is and how we're going to use that value. And we have to decide if that value goes up or it goes down through supply or demand. All of those things are true, plus a whole load of other values we're not even sure are going to become relevant, but that we're not sure how they're going to become relevant, but they will become relevant. And we don't know what those are either. So, I think I agree with you. It's utterly fascinating what the future brings. But it starts with one step, and it starts with one seed. It starts with one person. And, so the first step is that we come from, I hope and I believe we do, from a good place. And we're trying to make a good change. We think that our stakeholders are the people who buy our tokens, on the IDOs, as well as the people who take the seed and they put them in the ground. No one is above the other. One holds up the other. Where the system falls over is one exploits the other. And what's amazing about this system is that everyone's connected, so that for one to succeed, the other has to succeed. Because the more tokens that are held on the ground, the greater the value of the tokens that are held on the exchange.
Guys, I know we have a time restriction here, and I hate to cut this short. I would really love to have both of you come back for a part 2. But before we go and before we finish this interview, I just want to ask you, with all the context I always give to to my questions that people sometimes complain about, and in order, what would what else would you like to see blockchains and cryptocurrencies used for in Africa that can bypass our traditional way to think about things? Where else can we take shortcuts to improve the lives of people? Anthony?
There is no shortcut. There is no shortcut to improve the life of people. Improving the life of people means to care. We start caring where we are. To care enough to be willing to lose. Let me tell you, that's how I've looked at it. That's my care enough to willing to give. Not willing to ask, when are you giving it back? Sometimes it's willing to give. The communities we deal with, sometimes you can't see the results immediately, but you start seeing when people grow in it. So there's no short answer to that question. Sorry. Try Chris. Chris, what do you think?
I think there is a short.
Pretend that didn't happen and now come up with a shortcut, Chris.
Short answer, Carlos. Amen. Really enjoyed this, my brother, and we would definitely come in for a second conversation. I think this has been a very great in-depth search, and Africa is a continent that needs a lot more searching, so we're ready to come back for a second go.
Yeah, sure.
I always love talking about Africa. I always love talking about emerging economies, developing nations, all this. I'm from a developing nation.
Okay. Let's invite you. Come through, please. Come to Zimbabwe.
See you guys. And well, Anthony, since Chris had to run because he's getting kicked out of the building he's in, I would just like you to say the goodbyes.
I'm working from home, so I'm fine. I'm working from home, so I'm okay.
Yeah, no one's kicking me from my house either. I hope.
COVID is keeping us we're not locked down per se, but we're trying to keep as much restrictions as possible because we're still the program is getting faster now, bigger. Honestly, I'd say just a bit of I think my website has crashed like 15 times, honestly, since KamPay came on board. But it keeps crashing because we keep getting more people wanting to come on board and say, okay, fine, how do we just help? How do we help? Or how do we, and people start realizing there's an opportunity here, right? As a company, as individuals, and as organizations, look, most of the time you want to put something somewhere where you expect something to come back quickly. I get that. I've been this way my whole life. I'm a business person. I look at the profits or the risk, like Chris says. We've been advising a lot of organizations, governments, just on how best to structure something. But you structure it from a position of no consideration for the people who actually won't be able to come on board until they're given something. So what we started doing was just giving. We would give because even if I kept the seed, the lockdown made it very hard to sell it. So I'd owe my suppliers the money, but if I'm going to owe the money, at least you have the money, the seed, doing something, right? And you realize a lot of people are struggling with the same diseases that are in the Western world. People have cancer, people have malnutrition, people need support, and a lot of people lost breadwinners. So you have a lot of kids who can't go back into school. So we started paying school fees, but that doesn't really resolve the problem. So we started thinking, how best do we empower them at an early age to become the same people we are today? And that's when we thought to ourselves, okay, 10, 15 years, so we'll tie down every school. We're not going to a community where there's no school. We will go to the school that we know can't get the exact same amount of assistance because it's in the rural areas. Most of them don't have books. So we'll provide the books. They don't have anything. So we can't give them food every day. We wish we could, but we'll give them something to grow. So if they grow that, whether they sell it, they give it back to us. At first, we know at least the kids in that school are eating. The communities are eating. And it saves a lot of things. No more, the gender violence becomes a bit less because frustration is a big role in Africa for the gender violence. And there's also global warming. I understand it because I remember last time I was in Switzerland, there was no snow. It was sad. I expected it, but it wasn't good. So you start realizing if this thing is being this bad here, and it will affect Africa worse because they're not paying attention to it, right? So the best way to do it is to try and say, please don't burn the trees, but you can't ask for something to someone who doesn't owe you anything. It's easier to ask for it to something when they believe you're part of their lives. And this is how we became part of the communities. We wanted to be part of the community.
I would like to take this brief moment to tell something to everyone that goes and comments that whenever people are trying to bring blockchain or crypto into Africa, that these are just like white people playing saviors of the continent. Because I've read a lot of this on the internet, right? People think like that somehow these things don't apply to developing nations and that these solutions are not helping real people. And I see people such as Chris and such as yourself that are taking these solutions and that are building smart things to help people, to feed people, to educate people. And of course, you're taking these technologies because, like you said, there are no shortcuts, but I would say like there are efficient ways to do things. And these technologies bring efficiency that's needed there.
Yes. Look, the short answer to that is education, is understanding. That's the best way you can bridge that gap. Where the minute someone understands what crypto really is, or how blockchain system works, how it can manage the whole. In our case, for us, we have partners. We have more partners who want to come on board for blockchain, not only for funding, to literally make our systems much more faster, right? Where we know which warehouse got who received what, right? These are all things can be put on blockchain and can make it also efficient. But you can't introduce it to someone who hasn't yet understood wallets.
Right.
Then you start talking coins. Then you want what I've realized with blockchain. Okay, the little bit I've been on the cryptocurrencies, right? I can make and lose money while I'm sleeping. I might wake up with a couple of thousands more or a couple of thousands less, right?
Well, that's the joke, right? That's the joke. Before in the stock market, I had to wait until the weekday to lose money. Now I can lose money.
Exactly. Now you lose money all week long. You lose money whether you choose to or you don't. And guess what? That's Africa's reality. You lose money either way. But it's the gambling part of it, right? That you see, I myself am not a strong gambler. I'm not a gambler at all. Let me not lie, because I'll put something in the ground. I'll expect it to come out. If it doesn't come out, I'm upset. But you see, what the short way of doing this is introducing to them a mechanism in which they understand this is actually going to benefit them. This is actually this system or this coin or this wallet or however they want to because there's so many now, right?
Exactly. We don't see. I mean, there is so much left to do in this conversation, man. I wish it could last 3 hours, really. Like, we definitely need to have a part 2. I definitely need to have you guys back to talk about all of these. But now we do have to finish. We all have agreed on the time, so we have to cut it short. Please, everyone, stay tuned. There's gonna be a part 2 coming. I promise it's gonna happen. Anthony, where can people learn more about AGS before we leave?
Well, they just go on the web, Africa Grain and Seed. We have a website. It shows some of the stuff we've done. We intend to do a lot in South Africa, Zambia, Malawi, Congo. I mean, we're trying to do as much as we can in Southern Africa. We are as far as South Sudan. So Uganda, and right now we're looking at how to get some books and some stuff into Sierra Leone. Like, look, Africa is, like I said, the only way Africa is going to help itself, not help itself quick enough. Africa is going to have to need a lot of information around these things. And the numbers of people who are sitting in the villages looking for help, we can at least try to start with letting them grow something, and it comes back, and we put this on these get this understanding going around.
we have listeners from these countries. I've seen the numbers. We do. So I really encourage you to get in touch, to learn more about these initiatives, talk about them. Talking does a lot of helping to drive legitimacy, to help people wrap their mind about things. So yeah, if you can just talk about these things, I always encourage people to have conversations about the things that they find productive in the space. Somehow we all want all the information for ourselves. And if Chris was here, I'm sure he would tell you, go to the website. And I was looking it up to not misname it or anything. It's kamari.io, Kamari with a K. And Chris is also a contributor on Cointelegraph. He has great articles there. You can find it. You can find about everything that he's talked about, from applying blockchain to healthcare in Africa to a lot of more topics. And well, I hope you continue to do your homework after this episode. I hope you like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep growing and keep bringing quality guests such as Anthony and Chris. So, Anthony, anything else for the listeners?
Please come. Please visit us again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We'll be in touch, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.